Hi, this is KZSU, Stanford 90.1 FM. This is DJ Laptop with on Laptop Radio. We have Scott Turnbull here with us today, and he's from US Ignite. Scott Turnbull is the National Technology Leader for US Ignite. US Ignite spurs the creation of next-generation applications and services that leverage advanced networking technologies to build the foundation for smart communities. The nonprofit organization helps to accelerate new wired and wireless networking advances from research to prototype to full-scale smart community and interconnected national deployments. Hello, Scott.
Hi, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. We have an associate DJ Noon, with us.
How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, thanks.
She also went to Berkeley.
Yeah, go Bears.
And so today's topic is on US Ignite and the building the foundation for smart gigabit communities with the next generation of the internet. So Scott, tell us about yourself.
Thanks. Well, I have a pretty varied background. I started in technology quite a few years ago, more than I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I started out really on databases in the Intelligence Corps in the United States Army, and I worked up, my education is actually as a microbiologist, but I mostly worked protein databases and genetic visualization and so forth. And then I moved into academic IT at universities. I was at Emory University for a number of years, University of Virginia as well for a number of years, and then I worked in IT in the public safety sector. I was a technical section chief for the Mid-Atlantic Response Team for the East Coast for special events. So pretty varied background. Then I came to US Ignite and brought that energy to the nonprofit. Really enjoy working with the various communities across the country and all the app developers I get to meet. By far, the most favorite part of my job is talking to the app developers.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about US Ignite and what's their mission. What are you guys doing? How are you guys changing the world?
Yeah, great. I think you captured it pretty well. I think you've read the blurb from the website, which is great. We love to see that message out there. But we're basically a nonprofit that was inspired by activities at the National Science Foundation at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy to really develop a nonprofit that helps spur the creation of next-generation and advanced gigabit networks. And we want to spur the adoption of that through the creation of gigabit applications. So we work with cities across the country, also in Australia, to identify their most promising innovators and their promising developers, and find applications that are really doing things that you couldn't find on the normal internet right now, and bring those to market and help prove the value of these networks with the hope that it sparks the economy in these cities, that it sparks a whole new generation of thoughtful, interactive, and smart applications in each one of the cities, and really makes these cities responsive to the people living in them.
So before we move on to some of the questions I have, I wanted to really go back to the basics of language and vocabulary. What is a gigabit?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, no matter how long I do this, it's always the point of most confusion. So we really talk about it. It's really, everyone thinks of the throughput on the network up to 1,000 megabits per second. It could be, but really we're targeting anything over the typical broadband network. Broadband is nationally defined as 25 megabits per second down. Down and 5 up. And so anything really that exceeds that couldn't run reliably on current networks is really sort of in that gigabit continuum. So from that just above broadband up to the full, 1,000 megabits per second, that's the gigabit networks. We also add two sort of dimensions to that, though, besides just regular throughput. We also focus on real-time responsiveness. So there we get into edge computing, which is just a fancy term for a very, very close computer, so that even applications like self-driving cars, or maybe distance music, collaborative music performance programs, the latency for these need to be so low, like below 10 milliseconds, that even speed of light becomes a concern. You don't want to be sending photons out to the East Coast if you're running a car on the West Coast. So we want to put it right at the city edge, or even better, maybe a distributed cluster right there on smart light posts in the city or something like that can really respond below 10 milliseconds below anyone can react or think or notice. And then the last bit, the third pillar, is what we call software-defined networking. Right now, networks are really they're these kind of broadcasts that send out to publicly available addresses out there for everyone to see. And you can do some things like firewalls and protect traffic, but really software-defined networking is starting to get in much more intelligently routed networks that can pick certain systems that can interact with one another, both based on the system or on the application running them. They're highly customizable so that systems that shouldn't be visible to the world may not necessarily be. And we can optimize traffic so you can put a lot more traffic on those networks. You can secure the systems and applications running on them in ways that you never could before. And you just have much more control over it. So it's those three pillars that we define sort of advanced. That's the advanced portion of advanced gigabit networks.
I used to work at Cisco Systems, and we basically compare the internet with like trucks. Trucks basically have like little packages on it, and it runs on little rolls. That's kind of like the internet, and that's the analogy that we always use at Cisco. So what is the Genie network? I mean, I looked it up earlier a few months ago about Genie and Gigabit, and do you have any opinion about Genie? GENIE, I think.
That's right. And actually, I have to beg forgiveness. I don't remember the acronym what it stands for, but it's a research computing infrastructure that's national. It was backed by the National Science Foundation. It's housed at, I think, 77 systems that they have there, mostly housed at universities right now. And it's aimed at computer science researchers who want highly configurable systems that they can try experimental new networking protocols or algorithms to control networking protocols, or just an experimental platform for a network set of systems. And so that's really what it's founded for, is to provide computer science faculty with a test bed that they can really develop next generation protocols and next generation systems and optimize traffic on it. And that's really what it is. It's backed by Internet 2. So these racks that are sitting, bare metal racks are sitting at these various universities. Internet 2 has built special VLANs between them, which work on their advanced layer 2 service and provides ultra-fast connectivity between all of them. And it really can also serve as a distributed compute cluster. So you can stitch resources from one Genie rack to another, and they can form a virtual environment as if they were a single bare metal rack from the point of view of the user. So they have a lot of flexibility there, and it's really aimed at research.
Just going back to US Ignite, there is something called the Smart Gigabit Communities Program. What is that? And I know that you're a part of that.
Yeah, that's right. And really, that's the primary program that I work with at US Ignite, and that really is taking the mission of US Ignite that helps promote the deployment of advanced gigabit networks through the development of advanced gigabit applications. That's really the core of what we do. But we've targeted a cohort of cities. There's over 20 now, mostly in the US, with one in Australia, Adelaide, Australia, which is a great partner of ours. And each one of these cities has made a dedicated investment and effort in local networking architecture. They've also dedicated to finding their local application developers to build applications that run in their local networks to prove the capabilities of those over and above the sort of the normal networks that we have right now. So again, we have 20 cities. It compromises not just gigabit applications, but something we call the Digital Town Square, which is really, it takes the idea that a community should be able to freely exchange with each other, and applications should be easily deployed in them. And it really creates local exchange points in each community so that all the gigabit providers, their traffic doesn't need to leave their region. That analogy you had before of a truck is really a great one, because people don't really realize it, but you can have two computers on 5 feet away from each other on completely different networks, and that traffic between them might hop out to some other city before coming back into that other system. So we want to build short routes, short response times, and really configurable and software-defined networking at a local scale, and really find the applications that can be deployed to them to show the capabilities of them. That's really what Smart Gigabit Communities is about.
What are some of the cities that is in that community?
Well, we have a bunch. It's over 20. So Chattanooga, Tennessee, or Kansas City, Kansas and Missouri, Austin, Texas, San Diego, California. We have Madison, Wisconsin. We have a broad area. We call them cities, but sort of central, the Triangle area in North Carolina is another one of our areas. Practically the entire state of Utah. So there's quite a few there. Adelaide, Australia is our furthest city. We just did a great demonstration with them there to show the possibilities of transatlantic connection between Internet 2 and their equivalent there in Australia. We were able to do some a virtual training environment for solar people who are interested in exploring solar power plants. We broadcasted it from Lafayette, Louisiana, who's also another one of our cities, and we broadcast a live VR environment to Adelaide, Australia.
Oh, awesome. I'm interested. I'm actually putting a fusion conference together on November 14 on nuclear fusion and energy, and so that interested me.
That's great. You guys gotta get busy. We need some fusion power.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So what about the platforms for advanced wireless research project? How is that different from the Gigabit Communities program, and how is that, different?
Sure. So that's another sub-program of US Ignite. That's also a partnership with the National Science Foundation, as is the Smart Gigabit Communities. I hope I mentioned that, but that's directly a program that was initiated by the National Science Foundation under US Ignite. Power, similarly, was also initiated by the National Science Foundation. Their focus is wireless. So they're out there to establish test-bed wireless cities across the country, similar to Genie in that way that it's really the city will develop an infrastructure that researchers and businesses can come in, deploy experimental wireless technologies in the community, and really make that conversion more rapid so we can get to 5G much sooner nationally. It's been a sort of a thorn in everybody's side in the CS community because Europe has had several of these test-bed communities, and it's really sort of expedited their adoption of next-generation wireless technologies, but the U.S. didn't really have a strong test-bed. So now we're going to build 5 of them nationally. It's really going to provide a lot of diversity with different focuses in different areas. Some are going to be millimeter wave focused, some are going to be 5G. It's going to be sort of all over the map, but it's going to provide enough diversity that I think we're really going to push the researchers to be able to get in and do something new and innovative, but also really allow businesses to get in there and develop sort of practical, implementable technologies to create a business model.
Awesome. I was reading pouring over usignite.org website and just reading about the different programs. So since Scott is here, I get to ask him all these questions about them.
Sure.
The next one is going to be Cloud Lab, and I read it and it just sounds super interesting. What is that, and why do you guys have that?
Sure. So it's not headed. That's a subprogram. A partnered program with US Ignite. I think it's run out of University of Utah actually, but it's in collaboration with the University of Madison and several others. So that takes the Genie framework and it really scales it up so that it becomes a true academic research cloud-based environment. So researchers of all kinds can use this sort of virtual environment deployment strategy of Genie and the resource stitching capabilities of Genie. And these are other Genie racks that run that researchers can basically run a research-based cloud. So it's not just limited to computer science researchers. In this case, it's open to protein specialists or physicists or anybody who really needs to do heavy research computing. It provides a great research cloud platform for them to modify and use as they need.
Awesome. So now let's really talk about what really, how are we going to improve the lives of the people in the world? Like, how are we going to change the world? Let's really talk about that.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I love this. So really, so getting to see what people are actually doing, how we're going to do it is everybody feels like we're at this precipice of something new, but everyone thinks what that new thing is something different. I would say that actually we're thinking about that problem wrong. That we keep expecting to find a new thing, singular or a total small step, but that's not what has happened in the world. This might be certainly history has shown that times can be disruptive. So when the electrical light came around, certainly that was disruptive. Gasoline cars, certainly disruptive. But this is the first time in history where we have several major technologies all sort of advancing at once. Machine learning, self-driving cars, computer vision. We have new cellular technology. We have tablets. There's a lot. And then that's just in the computer science space. You get over to CRISPR and you get into lots of other sort of advancements in science, and we really have a disruptive time. And as people have talked, we're sort of at this precipice, but people talk about things coming, but not quite sure what to do with it. So I think we're stuck in this mentality of resource scarcity. Mobile computing is maybe done a little bit to us, right? We're used to thinking, I gotta compress my JavaScript file or my CSS file for mobile loads, right? That's what we're sort of thinking. But now we're hitting a world where that's not as what could we do if we didn't have those constraints? Then that's sort of what gigabit technology is about. So what happens in that world is the world becomes not just sort of an ivory tower that you have to react to, but the cities that you live in, the cars that you drive, your online presence all become reactive to what's happening in your life. So your hospital might be able to accurately develop through a combination of AI and doctor-mediated guidance, develop personalized treatment programs. Your cars may be able to get maintenance on their own and sort of ease that burden on your life. You can get a better picture. You don't just turn on switches and power just gets sucked up like a straw, but it might be intelligently routed to different sectors of the community and balanced much better. So to me, you end up with this very responsive life that your life in a city becomes almost individualized. Now, taking that a step further, I think when people talk about where the jobs are coming from, like everyone's anxiety is, the jobs are going to go, machines are going to do jobs. That's a load of horse donkey. It's not really going to happen in my opinion. Because I can't reconcile these two facts. Everyone says all the jobs are going away on one hand, but on the other hand, everything's falling apart and nobody can fix it, right? Mm-hmm. So I can't reconcile those two things. And if you look at sort of this idea of self-driving cars or maybe automatic delivery through Amazon robots or drones that are delivering stuff or automated public response, you're going to have so many jobs needed to just fix the roadways so that self-driving cars can run well enough, embed sensors in them, run maintenance on those sensors, fix cameras that are going to be required for computer vision, to schedule your appointments and help you get that tailored personalized medical care that might be coming down. I think that's the transformative nature of what's coming forward. It's just we're locked into this mindset of sort of a page load with maybe backed by a data table off of some database. We're locked in that mindset and maybe mobile, but we really have to get to adaptive systems that are in some case self-healing, that we're participating with to help guide them and make them a mediated technology. But I think that's really where this transformative sort of, it's not just access anymore, it's adaptiveness of the city.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about in the old days when most of us as agriculture and how that changed when, during industrialization and the middle class was really created during industrialization and culture has to change from farming to city. And a different kind of city as well. So, I'm excited about that. I visited Napa Valley on last Saturday. And it was I'm just excited about, computation and wired and wireless technology because, I was trying to stream the Napa Valley on Facebook and also on Periscope, but I could not do that because my connection is poor. And I think, the cell tower was burned down. I was at Tubbs Lane where the Calistoga, where the fire started. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do anything except, take pictures and videos on my phone. And, that got to change, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to take reprioritizing sort of how we view capital expenditures, certainly at the city level, right? Mm-hmm. But in terms of capital expenditures have to go to improving the lives of the people in the community, whether that's a city or a rural community, almost irrelevant. I do think we're heading towards a more distributed culture, which can be a good thing, but we need these rural areas need that connectivity. I mean, I would ask the question, it's not just sort of live streaming to Periscope, but let's say the people who are running those vineyards or their agricultural farms, if they want to put out IoT devices that monitor the health of the plants for determine if you need water on those plants so you can conserve water and target your watering plan. If you want to look for fungal spread or you want to look for wildlife that's coming in or danger or safety or fire detection, those are all going to take ubiquitous coverage of wireless technology and I think reliable on top of it. So I think that's absolutely critical sort of in the future world.
and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking, forward to technology, and computation and wireless just everywhere, and allowing us to do things beyond what we can do now. So I'm wearing a STEAM t-shirt today, because I know that I'll be speaking with you, and,
Right on.
and, I know that US Unite, supports, and then, I know STEM, but I add A for art, and a lot of people are doing that. So, for STEAM students all over the world, say in third world countries, could they use such connection to, look at a microorganism under a 4K microscope online or operate in real time with your technology?
Yeah, absolutely they can. And actually, I'll talk about a project in Chattanooga that I'm very proud of in a moment. But I want to say first, thank you so much for adding the A there, the art portion of it, right? Contextualizing things and coming up with the reason why we're doing this is probably paramount. It's not enough just to do things anymore. People want to know, how is it going to impact my life? So getting a full community discussion going around how we're using it, what's capable of doing it, how can this become a tool to break down barriers instead of sort of creating these siloed experiences that we're having online right now. I think it's hugely important. So thank you for adding that A. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I actually have a story with that A.
Go ahead. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I was a professional photographer, and I do runway shots. And it's interesting because every time I go to a runway, people think I'm a model instead of a photographer. Photography is an art, right? And a lot of times when I do take professional pictures of different models, I'm always the only woman in, a group of guy professional photography professionals. So
really, that's a problem in photography? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, like not in, amateur photography, but in professional photography. There's
it's
always
a well-known problem in IT, so I was surprised to hear it's a problem in photography as well, but it's a very well-known problem in IT that we definitely need to fix, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I tend to do things that I want to do and I'm interested in, regardless whether there's, male or female there, but I just noticed that, some of the interests that I have, in terms of photography, there's usually a lot of male photographers, and they're really, even in the cameras owners of the Bay Area photography group that I was in before meetups.com was born, there were, in that community, there were like all males except for like a few women. And, so I really appreciated the A in STEAM.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, if I could touch base on that, I would love to. So there's something on diversity is something we absolutely need, but a perfect example why, especially in tech, but across the board, perfect example of why is really resident in art. It's most demonstrated by art to me. That technology, like art, art is the sort of expression of a vision, and technology is a sort of a manifestation of a conceptual model. Right? If someone has a conceptual model and they make a product around it. And so technology and our advancements in it are generally limited to the conceptual models of the people creating the technology or coding it or whatever their role is in that, right? So and we've been able to accomplish a lot, but on a very narrow set of people's backgrounds, right, that have a similar set of conceptual models. And I think really, I very much believe this, if we want to achieve sort of new spurs in the economy, next waves of the economy, we have to open that more broadly to get all kinds of conceptual models in there, people who think drastically differently about many of these problems, both from the governance side down to the technology implementation side. So I think you can be absolutely self-centered and greedy and still really find, diversity incredibly important as the next one of the next requirements for a spark in the economy and a spark in sort of next generation development. So anyway, thanks. I really appreciate that point of view.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I recently also spoke with someone, just your point about conception and execution. I think I was talking to a gentleman like a week ago, and we were talking about intellectuals versus executors and how sometimes the left hand doesn't really know what the right hand is doing, and how, when you build something, you really need to have more of a unified body, right? that, the concepts are important. Of course, the coding and the execution are important, right? And then, of course, you have the business people, and you basically everything moves parallel forward.
That's right.
To make things work. So, and that's why diversity is so important, because, people have different perspectives, different experiences, different views and different solutions, hopefully, to solve a problem. And, we need that as a society, right? To change the world. I mean, to make innovation, to execute it as well, and to sell, if it's commercial.
Right. And you just have to get along with people too. I mean, we don't have time for that old school nonsense of cutting certain people out and playing gatekeeper. Technology is great at bashing down gates, and I think we need to allow more of that to happen. So, yeah, I really am. I really appreciate you sharing that. That was a great point of view. I did promise a story about Chattanooga, by the way. I would love to deliver that, because Chattanooga is a great community, and I don't want to leave them hanging. So your original question was really around, and we get off on the STEAM thing, so thank you for taking for that. But so it was around sort of the capabilities that can be brought to a community. I wanted to highlight a project. There's a community out Chattanooga, Tennessee. If people haven't been there, I cannot recommend it more highly. It's a wonderful community. Their network will spoil you. I mean, I've been in some pretty high-speed communities, but I go there, and the experience I get on the network is just like, oh my God, why can't I live here? It's just tremendous. They have a great program that really does feature diversity. So it's a 4K remote control microscope. So it was really founded with a partnership originally at the University of California to Chattanooga, but they've since initiated a program locally in one of their STEM schools. And what it does, it takes a microscope, a high-power remote controllable microscope that is an interface you can operate to the internet. They connect a 4K camera to it. Now, over a Gigabit network, they're able to send live, real-time 4K imagery to any school that would connect to it. And the students in that classroom can control the microscope in real time. So they can have someone at the STEM school, the students here are getting the experience of running that program, like scheduling time on the microscope, advertising it, mounting it, preparing slides for samples that might be sent in. And then when they mount it, a school that's remotely, it can be somewhere else in Tennessee, or it could be across the country, which we've done those demos before. They can let the students in that classroom control it. They're moving towards an Xbox controller right now. So it delivers the power of sort of high-end scientific instrumentation to any school that can get a connection. And that can be out in the third world. It can be anywhere here in communities in the U.S. that don't have access to it. Mm-hmm. So schools don't have to drop $60,000 or $100,000 on their own microscope. They really get access to these very high-power equipment. And as you know, in STEM, that is one of the big barriers. Even in computer science, if you can't afford a computer, it's very hard to get into it, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with scientific instrumentation, whether that's astronomy, microscopy, physics, to get access to LHC or gas chromatographs or something like that. That's really, I think that real-time responsiveness has great potential for scientific instrumentation.
Yeah, I'm actually currently, I wrote a superhero story that I wanted to create in AR, VR, and I have MacBooks, MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, I need a PC, and I need a PC that is different from normal PC so that I can run AR, VR software in there and also use their headset. Right. And those are like a couple $1,000, sometimes $10,000. So it's really, we're talking about access, right? And, really thinking about the world and just really how people have access to technology. So even if they want to do this, they couldn't because, it costs a couple $1,000 to buy the equipment and also, the accessories as well. So, and they might not have the network to do that.
That's right. So that's one of the things I mean by reprioritizing sort of expenditures. We really need to think about how do we get these into the hands of potential students? Because, we really need to ask ourselves, is the cure for cancer sitting in some small village that never really got to get access, so that was never found because it's sitting there untapped. And we really need to think about things. We want to we're looking forward. I tend to love sci-fi over fantasy because not to knock either one, but I like sci-fi because it imagines where we're going, right? Who do we want to be? That's the greatest question you can ask yourself. And so if we look for SpaceX or opening of NASA's collaboration with the EU or any of these sort of future programs, I think that that's the world I want to build. And we need to tap the entire globe to be able to do that, enable them to run anything from a small business that maybe just serves their local community up to getting involved in SpaceX if they want to.
Let's talk a little bit about time. And, I'm fascinated by time. I think Jeff Bezos, one of his favorite book is, I think, I've read it, I forgot the title. It's about time management. And, time management is just not personal time management, but, also time management of a business, but also, time management of innovation and how society changes because of technology. In history, just in a really short time, we have different innovators that change the U.S. Economy by different inventions. How do you think, what is your time frame or predictions of time frames of how do you think U.S. would change or how the world would change?
I think we're in the midst of it. I think 5 years is going to be crazy. People are not going to be able to imagine the world 5 years from now because I really think we're going to have people are going to start to see self-driving cars much more strongly. AI is going to make bigger pushes into medicine. If we do it right, and there's obviously concern about the governance here, right? And the fact is, and I say this as sort of a middle-aged white guy myself, right? There's a lot of middle-aged white guys sitting on top of this, and they're wedded to old ways of doing business. So we have to. These are our friends, and these are my colleagues, and so I would gently say to my colleagues that we need to stop thinking of old business management processes, that agile just isn't some buzzword that came into business. It's literally around cutting out the fluff, the things you don't need, maybe the personalities that are slowing a business down, that we really need to focus on well-meaning, well-intentioned people who are open to new ideas, can think positively about the future, that can do process just enough to be useful, because process is important, especially, I'm older, so I'll pull the old man card out on the benefit side here for a second, which is process can sort of focus you on the things that are very important, but it's only useful up to that point. Past there, then it's just culture, and culture that gets in the way of progress has no utility to anyone, not even the culture pushing it.
Yeah, I think sometimes we need to balance process with culture and time.
And I love universities. I would say they have the greatest potential, I think, for transformation once that's achieved there, and I think it will be. I think we're really going to see it open it up in terms of the experience of university students going there, the capabilities that they're able to achieve as part of their their educational experience, and also the researchers there. I think once we really tune that in a way that integrates not just the STEM faculty, but faculty maybe in the humanities and blends them a little bit more, I think we'll really see a lot of great research coming out of those centers.
Yeah, and I am interested in AI and I'm interested in computation because I think we need I think computation will power AI. And I think now, with the cost of GPUs and things like that, it's still pretty expensive, to run an AI project. So I think that, if we distribute it or really allow more people access to it, I think will be super awesome.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think distributed edge computing and some maybe cost reduction in hardware are really going to be short-term benefits there. I think long-term, though, with AI, we need to get a better window into what's going on there because it's going to be mediated for some time, right? We're not going to just turn wholesale parts of the country over to AI. It'll be some mediated participation. But I think, to me, the biggest challenge for AI is not getting an effective picture into why it's making especially dynamic AIs. Like scripted AIs, you can figure out why they're doing what they're doing, right? But true machine learning, we need to develop we don't even have a method right now. We need to develop a method in the midterm of understanding why it's doing what it's doing so we can we can either adapt it or we can adapt to it as needed.
No, I agree. I wanted to discuss, I know that US Ignite is a lot about wired and wireless technology and smart cities, and I want to talk about, of course, emergency, right? What happens when there is no internet and no wired or wiredness? What is your opinion on that? I mean, like for the hurricanes, where there's no internet and, no energy, how do we stay smart? And I think I have some friends who are really talking about creating technologies that allow us to communicate even offline,
Right. No, that's a great question. I think, especially given the recent events we had with the wildfires and also the hurricanes, I think that there's some potential. First, we have too much concentrated technology in one place and maybe just one or two lines going to a place. We need distributed compute platforms, distributed technology. Then we also need a distributed power grid. Power grid is half of the reason why most of this stuff goes out. The technology itself might work, but the power is knocked out. So we need to make, I think, significant pushes into distributed power grid and then a distributed compute platform. If you had thousands of IoT devices that essentially worked as a single compute platform for a city, it'd be very difficult. And if it can maintain power anyway, it'd be very difficult to knock that city out. So that type of resilience, I think, is very important. Deployable, low-powered, long-distance devices, actually, that might even be a little bit lower in bandwidth, but more reliable. There's a program called Serval, which is out of Australia, which is sort of these, you can just literally duct tape these things to a telephone pole and put a solar cell out on them. And they have low power connectivity that you can form a mesh network in the city. So there's I think, possibilities to do that, distributed both in the IoT sense and in the power generation sense. I think are absolutely vital for that.
Yeah, that sounds super awesome, Scott. This is KZSU Stanford 90.1 FM. Again, this is DJ Laptop at Laptop Radio. We're talking with Scott Turnbull at US Ignite. And Scott, of course, we're at a Stanford radio station. So I think a lot of people are in the community are listening to you. And, do you want to really address or say a words of advice to all the Stanford people here?
Yeah, I would say, Stanford's a great community. You're doing great work there, but get outside of it a little bit. There's a lot of the country that have adapted needs. Don't get lost in Silicon Valley. It's a great place to be, but places like Chattanooga, Kansas City, Burlington, Vermont, Austin, these are fantastic cities. You can get out to those there. They start thinking about where you can not just make a product, but sell it. There's a lot of competition in that area that'll help you hone that idea, and I think it's a great place to really incubate things. But when you've got hungry communities out there that can really do a lot of adoption for you, so seek those partnerships. Really get to know your local, not just people in IT, but your users, people in government, people in nonprofit spaces. Really get to know your community very well. That's probably my number one advice. How do
people do that? And how do people reach out to different people in those communities when we're kind of in this little Silicon Valley?
Yeah. I mean, that's so. US Ignite helps do that a little bit. Most of these cities have an entrepreneurial area. That's a good place to start if you do it. So get with that local incubator or entrepreneurial nonprofit. That is a great place to reach out. The other thing, though, is just develop social skills. I've been very blessed. The truth is I like people a lot. I love to meet and talk to people of all ages, of all backgrounds, and it really is something I really enjoy about my job. So develop that as a skill. Anything can be learned. This is fun. How lucky are we that we get to do this, right? So keep in mind that it's fun. Like what you like. Find people who like it too. Be friendly and contact those entrepreneurial centers and just keep it up over time. You'll be surprised at how many people you get to know.
Awesome. And I've been really thinking about something you said prior about being inclusive and really working with different people. I know there's not a class for that in school. So, I just want to close off by asking you, what is just your one piece of advice, to us, about on working together and just really building that harmonious relationship?
I think be open to other people's ideas. There's a great old saying that I love that don't be easily offended nor easily offend. I think that sitting there talking to people about their ideas, listening to what they have to say, but also have the courage to speak your mind, to say where you're coming from. I think but with an honest and open heart, people really appreciate genuineness and authenticity. And come at everybody with that, and I think you'll find a lot of friendly people out there.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you a lot. That was an awesome talk. Everyone, this is Laptop Radio. We're at KZSU Stanford 90.1 FM. We just spoke with Scott Turnbull with US Ignite.